Hello, welcome to ICRC-TV COVID-19 HR updates. My name is Pandy Pridemore, Principal Consultant and Founder of the Human Resource USA. Welcome to another show. We've had a great time putting some new topics together for you, and I've got a new presenter for us. It's interesting, we started our series of our 5-month look back. What have we learned in the past 5 months? Yeah, COVID's been around for 5 months, believe it or not. For some of you, it seems like 5 seconds, for others, 5 years. But it's been 5 months, guys. And we have talked about a lot of topics here on this show, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we're actually learning from everything that we're experiencing. So we started a new series called the 5-month look back, which we have Scott Warwick back in. Scott Warwick with Scott Warwick Employment Services, our attorney from Columbus. He and I are going to talk about, from an HR perspective, what we've been learning, and then a couple updates on some new things that are coming out from the CDC. So not only are we going to talk about what's old, but we're also going to talk about what's new. So stick around for that. But the first part of the show, I want to introduce some new topics, or let's say I'm going to go back to some old topics in regards to our most favorite things in the entire world, right? Our most favorite types. And you know what's crazy is how many different types are you actually seeing out there? I absolutely, it amazes me as to how many different materials are being used, how many different shapes, sizes. Of course, you'll notice that mine aren't graphic. Scott will be more than happy to fill us in on all the graphic ones that he has. But
can they see me? I don't know.
I am very, very fortunate to have been able to persuade Kristen Dickerson to join us today. Kristen she has got credentials that go so far beyond anything that I can really even cover today, but she is the statewide health, wellness, and special program manager for the state of Ohio, working with the Bureau of Workers' Compensation. Kristen has a PhD. She's an epidemiologist. She literally knows this topic of COVID frontwards, backwards, and sideways. And so when I needed somebody to come in and talk about masks, Kristen was just one of the top people on my list. So we're going to be talking to her about masks. Are your employees wearing the proper mask for the situation? And are you as employees wearing them correctly? And then we're going to go back to one of our favorite presenters, Mary Miller from Jancoa. Mary has so many different things in her sense of credentials, but today I brought her back in because I need her to go over with you what the cleaning and sanitation standards should be for your facility. I cannot tell you how many facilities I am going into now, and it's non-existent. It's like all the new glamour of sanitation and the wipes and the cleaning materials, it's gone. I had to seek out hand sanitizer yesterday after shaking hands with someone because the company had completely gotten rid of their station. And now I'm finding out as I dig a little deeper that some of your bathrooms aren't even being cleaned on a daily basis. Mary's going to straighten us out.
Wow.
Let's just to the future. Mary's going to straighten us out. She's going to get our heads in, get us back to where we need to be, because this isn't going away. Mary, can I emphasize it anymore?
You did a really great job, as usual, Pandy, pointing out the obvious, which is so important.
Again, guys, get your pencil and paper out, because as much as we hate to admit it, this is the world that we're living in, so let's do it correctly.
Let's not overcomplicate it, right?
Right, exactly. So Kristen, start us out with masks, because we're all just dying to know if we're actually preventing anything with these crazy, horrible things.
So before we go to masks, I just have like a little commercial, because I'm a health and wellness person.
Okay.
I just want to put it out there that this pandemic is affecting us mentally, not just physically.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to make it a point to check in with everybody that we work with, give them a call, start meetings off with, hey, how are you doing? Especially because we've got parents right now, they're getting ready to send their kids back to school. So this is like the next big stressful thing. So I just want to put it out there. Make sure you're checking with your employees, make sure that if you can, you provide any resources or help for them, because they're going to need support right now getting their kids back to school. I need support getting my kids back to school. So that's just my commercial. As far as masks, there are a lot of studies that basically say that if 80% of the people out in the world would just wear masks, we could kind of just go back to normal. That's what a lot of studies say. The reason that we keep getting increased cases is because not everybody are wearing masks like they should. So masks do work. There are two ways that masks work. Masks can be effective at stopping you from getting sick, and masks can also be effective stopping other people from getting sick. So first I'm going to talk about masks that actually stop you from getting a disease. When we talk about that, mainly we're trying to focus on healthcare workers with the N95 respirators and the face shields, because they come in contact with lots of people and they're high risk. The transmission of airborne diseases to healthcare workers through those N95 masks, it's like 99% of the particles get stopped before entering the person's respiratory tract. We can't all go around with N95 respirators, and actually when we're talking about source control, we don't want to, because any type of face mask that has a valve on it can actually put more particles out into the environment. So it's very important that, and I think actually Disney World is now saying that everybody that goes to Disney World, they can't have valves on their face masks. And that's because if you have the valves, maybe you're more protected, and maybe you're more protected from the virus, but it's allowing more of your droplets to actually exit out into the world around you. So
how much goes back out? You said how much goes back out?
There's not, it's been shown that, like, some studies are showing that when you have those valves, you can actually release like 30% more droplets into the atmosphere. So N95 masks are not necessarily the best thing for everybody to be wearing when we're trying to do source control. They are effective at stopping the virus. Yes, that is an N95 mask. It actually does.
Uh-oh.
Okay, well, until Kristen gets back, and we do want to hear what she has to say, let's move over to Mary. Mary, pick us up on the cleaning checklist till Kristen gets back.
Well, the cleaning checklist, this is something we've been in business almost 50 years. Jancoa cleans commercial office buildings all around the greater Cincinnati area. Pre-COVID, we had about 640 employees. That's dropped a bit. There's a lot of empty buildings, and that's made it different. But what I have been most impressed with is so many of our great customers and large office buildings have decided to keep their office building clean and healthy, meaning they're taking care of the asset of the building as well as the people if they come in to pick up equipment or supplies that they need, or files on things they're working on, to make sure that they're coming back into the building and that they're safe and be able to stay healthy. The way we've been doing this, and we've just stayed with our core consistency of how we clean business and have for almost 50 years, just keep getting better and being consistent. In addition to the consistency of the cleaning, of vacuuming, dusting, restroom detail, and taking care of all those things, we disinfect the touch points, frequently used touch points, regularly, not just once and done. We do it regularly, and customers have had extra day people added to their staff to make sure that they're doing on regular basis, every hour going through and cleaning the extra touch points.
And you're talking about doorknobs, you're talking about the stairwell, you're talking about the buttons in the elevator.
The things that are touched without people thinking about touching them.
Right. The copier, the print,
light switches, elevator buttons. The things that people as human, we just do it without even thinking that we're doing it. And they're touched on a regular basis to make sure we're doing that. That said, similar, if you've ever been to a fitness center or a gym, for years, they've had disinfectant centers and encouraging everybody that works out to clean up after themselves.
Yes.
Wipe down your equipment when you're done. That should be everyday habit for every human being. Don't rely on a $10 to $15 an hour janitor to keep you healthy. They'll take care. We'll do our part to do the general, but you be responsible for your part. Clean up after yourself on your space. I don't think anybody really wants a janitor to come in and clean their keyboard on their computer or their phone on their desk. Those things that, technology is expensive. So each individual should take that responsibility to take care of themselves. And then the bigger general picture will do us. And what we've been doing, our chemicals and equipment, we follow the CDC guidelines. It's right online. You can see whether it's schools or hospital grade or cleaning or building office facilities, how to clean and disinfect your facility. And disinfect can be a scary word. For years, we got certified for SIMS cleaning industry management standards for green building. We don't like to kill things. We like to keep things clean, but we are disinfecting to kill the germs because of the COVID. And we have used disinfectants in the key touch point areas, and we continue to do so, but it's based on the CDC guidelines. There have been test upon test of how some chemicals are very harmful and can be cancerous inducing if you inhale it, ingest it, if you're around it too much. There's been a lot of studies in schools that they believe a lot of the asthma that the children have could be taken back to the cleaning chemicals that had been used in the schools to try to disinfect to keep it healthy. So you have to be careful of how much is too much and keep that balance. It's really important. You don't want to fog an office every week to make sure you kill all the bad germs. Not only will that cause more harm to the people working in the building, it'll also cause a lot of harm to the asset of the building itself and the furniture and the carpet. We had one office building that called us out on doing some damage to some conference room chairs. It turned out one of the tenants in the building was an attorney, actually a friend of mine, and he said, that was me. Somebody brought in and I sprayed too much and it bleached the leather on the chair. So, it's stick with basics and use your common sense. Disinfect things that need to be disinfected, but there is no guarantee. There just isn't.
Mary, are you talking about spraying like that Lysol spray in the area just to fall and kill cooties? Is that what you're talking about, or is there something else?
No, I'm talking, thank you for asking. Again, using CDC approved. We do have some Lysol wipes. We use Clorox, has some CDC and the wipes that do it. The easiest thing is to get a ton of wipes and wipe down after yourself, just like you would at the gym.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, wipe it down and start fresh the next day.
Well, let me ask you, because I can't wait to hear what Kristen, and I see Kristen's back, I can't wait to hear what she has to say about this mental health.
Oh, absolutely.
And let me tell you, I have not been, and Pandy knows, I'm like a mental health advocate because I'm like, used to have like all kinds of issues, but I'm okay now. Okay. But
that twitch is nothing.
Yeah, that twitch is nothing. Right. I used to pull my hair out.
Ignore the twitch. Everybody's got that today. It's scary.
Is it safe to go to the gym if I spray I spray my stuff down with alcohol, pure alcohol, wipe it down. I don't use that stuff they've got. I can't imagine wearing a mask and doing this, but I'm there doing this. For mental health versus this kind of stuff, you take care of yourself. Is it safe for people to go back to the gym today?
I haven't been in the gyms. From my understanding, there have been some that have set up for socially distanced so that if you're breathing heavy without a mask and droplets are sent out, that they're far enough away from you. I don't know. I invested in a Peloton at home so that I don't have to
that's smart
about that.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate that I was able to do that. My husband and I have our own little competition with each other, because you have to find ways to stay healthy for mental health and physical health.
Yeah.
I'm going to interject here because I do go to the gym occasionally, but I know this sounds really gross, but guys, I think it'd be safer at the gym than when you go to a public bathroom and you're flushing the toilet and throwing all that into the air. I mean, I just, this is why I have such a pet peeve about community bathrooms. If you've got more than one person using the bathroom, that needs to be cleaned on a regular basis. This is, I mean, people need to understand that it's more than just the doorknobs. And this is, as going back to Mary's point, keep it simple. It doesn't have to be major, like she said, fog and sterilization. Let's just keep the place clean. And when you eliminate those sanitation stations, or you aren't requiring your employees to wipe down the conference table or the copier after they use it, your risk as an employer has just gone through the roof. And we talked about this last week, that Nevada has already put through a law saying, look, if you're showing that you're doing your due diligence and you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing to keep a safe and secure workplace during this time of COVID, we'll back you. There won't be a workers' comp claim against you. We will back you. But the moment you start slipping behind, and that's what I'm seeing right now, is a lot of companies slipping behind saying, you know what, June, July were the tough months. The numbers are going down. We have nothing to worry about. So far from the truth. So far from the truth.
That's a really good point, Pandy. And it's like we've all seen abandoned buildings and how it doesn't take long for them to look overgrown and get dirty and dusty. And germs can live in that stuff, right? And it's when you take care of an asset, it's not going in once a month. It's going in consistently and keeping up with it. It's, you know, everything is energy. And when you keep things clean, there's a better, more positive energy about it. And it's not that difficult to do. To be able to, it's less like they say, washing your hands for 20 seconds. It's the same with buildings. You have to wipe things down and get things clean and vacuum, because you don't want anything settling on the dust. Even though they don't live long, it's just going to create a mess. So keep up with it as it goes.
Right.
We even talked about here a couple of shows ago about, I walked into a kitchen area and there was still food up on the counter that had been abandoned back in March. And of course, the building has been vacated all this time. And I the first thing I thought of was, well, with the lights out, this is an open invitation to all those little four-legged creatures with crazy tails and funny ears that we just really don't want to go back and find. They've inhabited our space. No. And then you've got an even bigger issue, because they'll eat right through your materials, they'll eat right through your cords. Guys, they will move in if you set a table for them.
Yeah, when people move out, spiders and other things move in.
Yes, yes. So that's a part of the cleanliness aspect too. You don't have to be using your office every day for you to go in and maintain a clean environment.
Absolutely.
I think that needs to be said too.
Absolutely.
Scott, you're being very quiet. This is just not.
No, I'm checking some of the stuff you sent to me, and
he was looking around for spiders.
No, honestly, my wife is much more sensitive to that type of stuff, but even I was absolutely disgusted. And I'll tell you, it is as more and more people travel, and that's one of the things that I'm just really we bought, you know, along your lines, Mary, we bought a new elliptical for down in the basement. And so I'm real excited getting stuff on that. And I've got a box and bob, and I'll tell you that one of the things that is just so good for building your coordination is just going downstairs and smacking the heck out of box and bob or something like this. But, you know, there's certain things that I like to do when I go to the gym. And it's really interesting. I went to the gym, it's like 4 or 5 years ago I was there. And I've sort of been on a fitness thing for the last several years for my brain health. And I'm also diabetic and stuff like this. And I'll tell you, I got yelled at for spraying down a machine and not using the foam that they use at LA Fitness. Well, you got to remember it's LA Fitness, so it's California, so take that with a grain of salt. And I'm like, that stuff that you use is absolutely worthless. What I got here is about 60, 70% alcohol. Okay, it's actually the 90% rubbing alcohol, and I put a little bit of water on it. I can tell you, when I spray it, there is nothing alive. It is covered with dead cells. Okay? But I think that's what's changed now. And my biggest concern about mental health, and I'll tell you, you understand that we are out of, Paxil? Or we're out of Zoloft. And so we are running out of antidepressants in this country.
Yep.
And I love that Kristen's here. I'm a big fan of the BWC, of the different workers' comp agencies across the country. I mean, we've got a really good one here in Ohio, really. And I've been presenting for these folks for years, and it's just wonderful because we talk about mental health, and we talk about, well, all of a sudden now, guess what? Your mental health and germs are actually a part of safety.
Yes.
And now all these offices, they've got to get used to, I mean, I'll tell you, it's just like, well, I don't want to get sued. Then do it. Okay.
There are,
the OSHA standards, and understand, wow, you think I'll get sued? You hope you get sued. You hope that's what happens. Because I'll tell you, I think Pandy and you and I have talked about this. I've had clients that have followed what we're talking about in here. They've watched the videos. They make all the employees watch the videos about what sneezes do and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. I can tell you right now, in the state of Ohio, if you call the Ohio Department of Health, they will show up. Mm-hmm. If your employees call, it's not like they will show up. So you sure as heck better be following what the OSHA standards are, what our workers' comp people are telling you for free. Okay. And I'll tell you, you get a few cases of COVID, we start to backslide, like, Florida and some of these other hotspot states. I can tell you, this governor will shut you down.
Well, it's not even that, because BWC did mail out masks. We did provide masks, and I think we're going to provide more too. It's not even that. If you get a case and you're not following the proper, if there's a positive case at your facility and you're not following, if you're a restaurant employer and you're not following and having everybody wear masks, then every employee that positive case has come in contact with is going to be quarantined. So that could potentially shut you down for 2 weeks because you have no employees.
One case.
Well, one case, because everybody that's come in contact with them is a close contact and they've worked with is considered a primary exposure. So the health department's going to contact trace them, and then they're going to quarantine them. And so it potentially could shut you down for 14 days. And we've had places like that, I know, in my community that have had to shut down because there's nobody there to keep the business running that's not on quarantine.
Yeah. I mean, I tell you, let's not be fuzzy and feel good here. People are dying. Okay, let's be very frank here. Plus, even if you don't like people, okay, this is really, I mean, I've got, sociopaths that I've met that run, they couldn't care less, okay? And you've got some in Cincinnati that created very interesting workers' comp law for you over there, Kristen, that, well, if our guys get killed in the ditch, it's okay. We got more guys. That type of attitude is just not so good. But it's the biggest part of your budget. Just be a CFO for a minute. It's the biggest part of your budget. I don't love my car, but I protect it because I get sticker shock if I have to buy another one. Right. And second, these, just like Kristen got to, these are the people who execute your strategic goals. 13% of all Americans, according to Gallup poll, go in every day and actively sabotage your business. So this stuff is not difficult. It's not rocket science, but Pandy, back to your point, it's reminding everybody of what the CDC is saying, what OSHA is saying, and OSHA's got some teeth, what the Bureau is saying, what even the World Health Organization is saying. Why don't you just do it? This wearing a mask is not a sentence. And it's not like somebody's slapping a chastity belt on you or something like this. You can put this on, make it fun, like a tie, if you do have to still wear ties, make it fun, and save the people who are around you. And people are complaining about the economy. Go back to Kristen's comment. If people just grew just half a frontal lobe and wore these things, our economy would be back right up in
That's and you make a really good point. It's not the fact that the governor could shut things down again. It's the fact that your business might shut down because everybody's in quarantine, or you've got too many positive cases and there's just nobody left to work there. Because if you're putting all your employees together all at once, it creates one of those breeding grounds, just like the lunch counter that you guys were talking about for germs. So like you could potentially just have your whole entire workforce.
Yeah.
There was a factory actually where everybody was required to wear masks, and 2 people tested positive for it. Did you hear about this?
No,
No.
but I'm all along your line here.
2 people tested positive for it, and they tested a whole bunch of other people. There were a few cases of people that tested positive, but even though they were all wearing masks, but they were asymptomatic. So what that is showing people is that even by wearing the mask, you're stopping, if you do become infected, you're stopping the severity because you're not as exposed to as many particles and germs. So it's
How many people were working in that environment?
I know that it was over 150 because it was one of the larger employers.
And let me tell you, this isn't a scientific study, but this is just real life. Back in May, or actually late April, I got a call, and I love to brag about my clients, and I asked them if I could do this, and they say it's okay. It's Vatican Incorporated down in Marietta, Ohio, one of the biggest cities in Ohio, okay? Marietta. They do power washing, okay? Now, what they do is they go into boilers. And I think about it, this is April and May in North Dakota, where, there's still snow, okay? It's cold. They got 50 guys on this crew. And we don't fly them. We put them in vans and we drive them up there. Now we're going to pack these guys into vans. Their families are worried and everything. So I went down, we trained them. Everybody spread out 6 feet. I had a presentation. So whenever you touch a surface with something, we are giving everybody, and I got a picture of all these little nylon bags. They got like at Target or off of Amazon or something. In those bags, they had hand sanitizer. They had masks. We would refill it for them. They had paper towels for the hotel rooms, bottles of Lysol. When they first get to the hotel, nuke it. Clean everything down. If you are going to touch it, you clean it. Spray the Lysol on the beds. Nuke it, okay? And I'll tell you, this went on. They always go for like a 30-day out and about to North Dakota in some of these places. They always get sick. These guys, you're in water, knee deep, it's dirty, you're outside. And let me tell you, this last trip, for the first time in the history of this company, no one even got the sniffles.
Wow.
No one got a cold, no one got a flu, and certainly nobody got COVID, but nobody even got sick. So whenever I hear somebody that is saying that, well, it's all fake, or these germs aren't really there, or this doesn't do anything, I just think you must be from the 1500s. That's where you must be from. And I'm not a scientist, but at least I know how to Google what a germ is.
Well, you actually bring up a good point because they didn't get sick from anything, but you have to, we are in flu season. We're coming up on flu season. So, and it's a respiratory virus. So those masks and wearing the mask would actually help stop transmission of flu and COVID. And we're going to have two very transmittable diseases before too long when everybody starts to want to stay inside. So it makes it even more important to wear the masks.
Yeah. And if people are filthy, aren't they, Kristen?
Yes, they're disgusting. Yes. That's why I have a job. That's why my husband has a job in public health. Yes, people are filthy. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about these masks a little bit more.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to let you know that my internet is unstable, right? Well, it was unstable because we're having really bad storms. So I got cut out, and then I started to freak out, tried to find other ways to get on. Sorry about that.
You're good. So this is a mask that BWC sent my company.
Yes.
And they gave us a whole bag. Okay.
Yes.
So it looks like it's nothing but cotton. It's well sewn. And one of the first things I did was I pulled it as tight as I possibly could because I wanted to see if I could see through it. Just how, but you know what? You can't. You absolutely can't. And you obviously can't with this kind, and obviously with this kind. But when we're talking about materials with these handmade, my manicurist made these for me because I like the bling. Kristen, what should be looking at, or what should our employers be looking at when their individuals come in with those custom made ones like Scott and I have here?
Yes.
You're talking about, and I like his Pennywise one. That was very funny. So we're talking about the cloth face coverings.
Yes.
And those have been shown to actually stop 60% of the germs entering your body. So it actually stops you from getting as sick as you would or becoming exposed. So it does prevent. But then as far as source control, which is what we're trying to do. Everybody wear it. So if you are sick and you don't know it yet, or you're asymptomatic, if you cough, if you breathe, all the face covering does is it stops the respiratory droplets from leaving and breaking down, because the COVID virus sits on like water droplets in your respiratory tract. So eyes, nose, mouth. So when you release when you release water from your nose or from your mouth, if you're talking, sneezing, coughing, singing, anything like that, if you put something in front of it to stop it, it basically holds all those droplets, and then they can't become smaller, and then they can't become airborne, and then it really works well for stopping transmission.
Okay, so let's go even further, since people are disgusting. How often should a homemade mask be cleaned?
After every wear.
Clean them?
After every wear, you should clean them. And I will tell you, so at the beginning of this, we were hearing a lot from the CDC and World Health Organization, about maybe not wear a mask, maybe not back in March or February. Yes. The reason why is because, like you said, humans can be filthy, and they were afraid that we would start auto-inoculating ourselves if we had masks. But what I mean by that is we touch a dirty surface, and then we touch our masks and take our masks off, and then we touch our eyes or our nose, so they were more concerned about that, because at that time they were more concerned that.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I see where she was going with that. And Scott, you and I have talked about this over and over again on the show. There's a way of putting it on, and there's a way of taking it off. Go ahead. You got this down, Patch.
Yeah.
Let's
Can
focus
you see
one more time.
There's videos, and it's real hard. So you take you don't touch the mask. You touch the two stretchy things, okay? Yeah. And I don't like the ties because that's too much work. So I'll get my RGB mask, and I'll put it on, and I'll walk around. And a couple things, I went to Lowe's the other day, and we might want to consider nuking some of these facilities, because everybody's wearing a mask like this.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm like, get away from me. You're filthy, dirty, disgusting. But you wear it like this. It's no big deal. And then I always watch people at Kroger or Giant Eagle. You take it like this. Never touch the mask. And I see people fingering it and all kinds. And I'll tell you, I love Kristen's comments, because I'll see these folks, and mine, I don't know about yours, but mine has a little thing in here. I can put a coffee filter.
Oh, no, mine does not.
Yeah,
no,
yeah, some do, some don't. Some are made thicker already. Okay. But I got these off of, you get them off the internet like crazy. But you don't have to buy the special inserts. Just get a coffee filter and put it in there. And I see this because some people put too much faith in these things. They'll put them in like this, and they'll be standing there in Kroger in line, and they'll sneeze like, and they'll just look at you. And I'm like, God. Okay. So it's
6 feet.
Yeah, 6 feet, 6 feet. But it's like, that's so disgusting. I mean, unless you got one of those medical masks on, that's not going to stop that. But now we got some folks like, well, it's a mask, I can just sneeze or no, you still turn and everything. And your point on this is, when I get in the car, I throw them in the wash. We got a little thing my wife puts in there. We wash them. But as soon as I get in there, because I might be going someplace else, like I might go to Lowe's, I might go to CVS or God knows what, I got my spray, which, I've shown you is Galen's vodka. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's 75% by weight. It's just killer hand sanitizer. And then I actually started putting peppermint essential oils in there, which are antimicrobial. Okay. I used to use my lavender. Okay. But now I use this to sniff. Okay. Because it relaxes you, particularly after you've been to Lowe's and you're there with a bunch of folks that don't wear their mask right. But you spray it and you kill everything on it. And then you put it down, and it smells like peppermint for the next place you go. And I have Spider-Man. I've got the Earth on Fire. I have Jesus petting a dinosaur. I've got all kinds of things for everybody. I got Pennywise. And you need to have a nice collection of these things, because every time I go out, I bring it back in. I throw it into the laundry. Yeah. It's not hard. Come on, for the trillions of dollars that this is costing our economy. Just forget the bodies everywhere, but the trillions of dollars. buy a $4 mask and wear it.
So one of our questions is, does an employer have the right to limit or control the graphics or the design or the color of the mask? Do they have the right to say you can only wear the white workers' comp, or you can only wear the, you know, medical mask?
Yeah.
Can that be a company policy?
It can be. I honestly haven't heard that. Like colors and things like that. Have you
Well,
heard of that?
I'll go even further because the individual gave me more information. This mask that they're challenging has a very current political statement on the front.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Somebody ripped that one off.
So it's
Yeah.
causing, it's not just the mask aspect, but it's causing some other issues. And
Yeah.
so we've got a couple things moving. I was going to start with the question is, can the employer control the mask? Yes, the employer can control the mask.
Yes, they can.
Especially if the mask isn't sufficient and
Right.
is really protecting, it's not appropriate. So that's why I wanted Kristen to kind of go over the different types of masks, when you know, what they should be wearing at what time and in what environment.
Right.
But going even further than that, yes, as an employer, you have the right to remove political statements or graphic designs that may be offensive to other employees.
Would that fall under dress code type of thing?
Yes, it is. It is. And Pandy, you're being very diplomatic. I love that. Yeah, political statements right away. That's fine, because I'm quite sure a Trumpster doesn't want to sit next to somebody that's wearing their Bidenite mask all day long, and vice versa. So, okay, fine. It's just, I mean, that's a whole tolerance communication thing. But some of these things that I have seen at the grocery store, I would never let them in my company. I mean, my clients wouldn't let them either. Some of them are borderline obscene, and some of them are just plain obscene. I'll just let your imagination go with that. Those are just not appropriate. Just like you would not wear hot pants to work, you probably shouldn't wear some of these things that you get off the internet for masks. Okay.
And
if
going
you
back
wear
to your
church, don't wear it.
Going back to your point, Mary, that's a really good point. I think if you feel that this might be a problem, I would highly recommend, and again, you don't have to change the handbook. Don't be doctoring the handbook. You can have an outside policy through the pandemic. And quite frankly, it's PPE in many situations anyways. So just buy a box. If this is appropriate, just buy a box, put it out. I mean, trust me, they're at Office Depot. I saw them there this afternoon. It's not a big investment compared to your return on that investment. Second question was, if we have, we're in an office complex and we have a mutual hallway down to the facilities, my employees don't want to wear their mask down the community hallway and the other employers and companies are getting upset. Do I have the right to discipline or reprimand?
They should be wearing masks in common areas. It's okay to take your mask off when you're in your own office if nobody's in there with you. If somebody comes in, I would recommend putting the mask back on. I want to make sure that if you're taking you should probably be washing your hands after you take the mask off, because you don't know. So just make sure you're doing more hand hygiene, putting the mask on and taking it off. But definitely when they're in common areas, especially hallways, because they're in close contact in those hallways, they should be wearing masks.
Because Kristen, couldn't they cough on something like a
Yep.
over the wall and they'd leave particles?
Well, if they're not wearing a mask and they cough, then those particles are becoming airborne, which means that they're lighter than the air. They stay suspended. So somebody could walk through that like fog of cough droplets.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah.
Good. We've kind of talked about, we briefly talked about our training aspect last week. The training tip was how to train your employees to respond to customers or clients coming into your space or into your business and refusing to wear the mask. So Scott, since I've got you here, I thought I would just approach you just in case. I challenged him with that training tip last week. What's your feedback on how to train an employee for that?
Absolutely. And that is a phenomenally great question. And the first thing I'll do, because I'll usually deal with the HR person or the business owner or the president or something, I'll say, first question, what do you want to do? you got people coming into your office and things like this. What do you want to do? Do you want your people to wear, well, you want your people to wear masks. Do you want your customers to wear masks? And some of them tell me emphatically, if they are not going to wear a mask, they're not welcome. Okay, you are not put it this way, it's not public property, okay? Even in a county courthouse, someone runs that, okay? So, well, I have a freedom of speech. No, you have a freedom to die alone. So go out here all by yourself. And I can tell you right now, I know of county buildings, state buildings. I'd like to hear what the BWC would do if somebody came walking into the green building and they don't have a mask on.
We had that happen, and the security does suggest that the security at the front desk suggests that they leave, because the state buildings, we're assets, and they're protecting the assets, because that's what you have to tell these employers. Like, if what you want to do is protect your people, then don't share that. Like, I'm sorry, you're not coming in. I'm trying to protect my employees, that they're important to me.
Personally, I agree with that, because every human's a petri dish, and one person can just be this cootie carrier, just like Typhoid Mary. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I agree with that. Now, I do have clients that say, well, if they're not going to wear masks, like a restaurant, you can't wear a mask and eat. Okay. So what are they doing? And my clients who are restaurants, that they have put up
plexiglass
plastic shields. Okay. And they protected. Well, that's understandable. Okay, that's understandable. But, in a lot of my clients where maybe someone's coming in to see a doctor's office, I can tell you right now, I don't know of none of my doctor's office clients are letting anybody near them without a mask. So that is up to the employer. And I don't know if you've seen online, you talk about emotional intelligence. You should just see the people whose careers are burning in flames. These, like that one guy, the insurance executive that decided to go to Costco and just have a meltdown because they wanted him to wear a mask. Next day, the sun did not set before he was out of a job, and he's an employment leper. And honestly, I think he's too stupid to hire. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. So if I go someplace to my dentist, or if I go to Costco, or I go to Lowe's, and they say, we need you to wear a mask, I will wear my mask. I will respect their wishes. If I go someplace and they don't make me wear a mask, I'm still wearing a mask. But I can tell you right now, if I go someplace and there's a bunch of people walking around, they don't have their masks, I'm leaving. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a germ guy, but I can Google it.
If we go back to our employers with that question, for those of you who maybe have not trained your employees, let's take what Scott and Kristen and Mary just talked about. Look, some of your employees are not going to have, let's say, the finesse to speak to a client or a customer and explain your situation or your standards. So be very cognizant of who you have interfacing with your clients and interfacing with your customers. If it's not somebody who can professionally ask them to put a mask on, or unfortunately we will not be able to serve you, then please have somebody close by.
Yeah.
As I mentioned last week, I had a ridiculous incident occur at one of the big stores here in Cincinnati, and the sad part was I just wanted to look at her and say, honey, you have no business being at the register. You really, I'll find a stocking job for you. You really have no business being at the register if you're going to react this guy. And it was just because I was handing her cash.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the mask. So going back to the training tip, if you have not trained your employees, please get your team together. Talk about how you react to these kind of situations. Remember, we're all stressed. We're all on edge. And we want to make sure that everybody, again, stays safe and stays happy. We don't want to lose clients over something as silly as an employee not knowing how to properly and appropriately approach someone about a mask.
And I'd like to know if Mary runs into this as well. People who own buildings and then lease out space for offices. I have clients where, because they are leasing the space, it's a sign out front and everything. You have no choice. If you work there or you come in, you're going to wear a mask. And if you don't do that,
absolutely,
your lease is up.
Absolutely. It's at almost every building we clean is that way, the multi-tenant building. And it's the same with our janitors that work. 80% of them work 6 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. and they have to wear their mask at all times, even if there's nobody else in the building. So like we've had a janitor too that, it gets hot wearing that mask cleaning. for 8 hours.
Right.
And so they'll kind of whip it down while they're breathing, and they'll get caught, they'll get busted. That you have to wear a mask at all times while you're cleaning.
Yeah.
So we have talked to some buildings, asked them to please leave the air conditioning on instead of having it turned off at night, so our people can breathe a little bit better since they have to wear the mask. And most people have been very working with us on those type of things. But
Right.
no, absolutely. Every building, you've got to, that social distancing is important, washing your hands, wearing the mask, and using the hand sanitizer. That the hand sanitizer is after the washing the hands. And it even says on the CDC cleaning guidelines, clean with soap and water, anything first, and then disinfect. Just don't try to, if you try to kill everything, you kill yourself. I mean, it's really can be way too hazardous for your health if you get way too applied. Do not use straight bleach. Not good. Not good. Yeah, it will kill things.
I use bleach outside and I just almost pass out. And I'm like, could you even do that? I think you pass out or, oh my God.
But some people are, the fear, the mental health thing you talked about, the fear factor is real. People are overreacting.
Yes.
And they just, go ahead.
And so, because we were talking about masks, and the thing from Duke came out about the gaiters and not being, and how they're not effective. So the people that did the study at Duke said the media has taken this. They did not take the talking points that we gave them. This is not what we're saying. We're not saying that gaiters are necessarily more ineffective or bad. The study they did was actually just on testing, not on mask efficacy and not on transmission of disease. So it actually has nothing to do with source control. It was just if they could test the methods of the particles coming through, that's what it was for. So, and it was one study. It has to be looked at by more people. So the people that did the study are saying, we are not saying that gaiters are any more effective or ineffective. We're saying it needs to be studied more. We are saying that we just looked at it and these are the test results. So
gaiters are okay.
They haven't really determined. And honestly, putting anything in front of your face to stop things coming out of your mouth and nose right now is a good idea. If that's all you can get somebody to wear, I would take it. Definitely do.
My grandkids, that's the only thing they'll wear. They won't keep mask on, but gaiter they'll do.
Yeah.
I did. So with gaiters, if you can like put more material, or if it's like bi-layered, or if there are folds in the gaiters, that actually helps stop the transmission of the particles, is what they're saying. Yeah.
Better than doing nothing. I went into the post office and it's just me. I'm doing something. I forgot it. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot my mask. Like I was going to
pull your shirt up.
So yeah, so I'm like pulling my shirt up.
And it's over your nose. Good job. It's over your nose. Good job.
Like, I mean, God knows what I'm carrying. Okay. But no,
it's better than nothing.
At least you're trying.
It's stopping. It's stopping something. Yeah. That's the whole point of source control. It's not to stop this disease from being here. It's just to stop it from spreading so much. It's to stop most stuff coming out of your mouth.
And Kristen, can I ask you, you had a quote that we could probably be about 80, if 80% of the people wore masks, we could pretty much go about our business.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Where's that from?
But there are studies, and I found it was like an editorial that was written in, of all places, like the Wall Street Journal. But there are a lot of studies that they cited in the Wall Street Journal saying, like, if people would just do what we're asking them to do, we could go back to normal. And if they're not, then they're putting their employees at risk, and also risking shutting down their business again.
I'd be like World War II. If I was Congress and the White House and the Supreme Court, whoever, I would do like World War II. I'd get the big B-52s back out and I would just drop masks everywhere. Everybody can have
a set of flyers.
And you get the Spider-Man, you get whatever you want. Even if you're going to wear something that is horribly obscene, wear it because it will save us money. End lives.
Yes, and lives. And that's so the mortality rate might be less now of COVID than when it started. I think now it's like 3.7 and it was 5 or over 5. But it's not just the mortality, because COVID causes long-term complications. There's multi-organ failure. So when we say that these people are recovered, all we mean is that they didn't die from the disease, and they're now not showing like the initial symptoms. They've gotten out of the isolation. It
Right.
doesn't mean that they've gone back to their way of life. Like, these people are still, some of them are in rehab, some of them have lost limbs, some of them are in dialysis now because of it.
I got a relative, very close blood relative, that was the first case in Licking County. Spent 30 days in OSU hospitals, 15 days on a ventilator, and basically she is going to have the symptoms of asthma for the rest of her life.
Yep.
And she's only 58.
Yeah.
Kristen, thank you so very, very much. Your information was exactly what I was hoping you'd bring to the show today.
Sorry again that I got cut out. Sorry.
Okay.
Storms.
This is a live show. We never
Yeah, really, it happens.
just roll with it. And Mary, thank you very, very much for the cleaning checklist. Our viewers have got to understand that just because things are starting to get a little more comfortable and we're able to get people walking through the doors, the phones are ringing, our employees are coming back, it does not mean that this pandemic has gone away and that we can ignore what is still present, and that's the fact that we have to keep a safe and secure workplace. I want to mention real quick too, because you kind of briefly mentioned it. Remember that the FDA and I believe the CDC had something involved with it too, but there's 9 different types of hand sanitizers that are made with wood alcohol that are very dangerous. Please make sure that you're looking at your labels, you're making sure that you're buying the right products, because that is, to Mary's point, there's stuff out there that can be just very, very dangerous if not used properly. And these particular hand sanitizers, I've got the list if you need it. I can send it to you if you ask, but please be very, very careful with that kind of stuff. Actually, we can kind of caveat off of something that Kristen said, Scott, because we need to move on now to the new announcements that we got from the CDC.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit last week about the symptom strategy, the symptom-based strategy of going from 14 days down to 10 days. But now the CDC has brought out new guidance on the 16th of August, which even narrows it down even further and talks about the appropriateness of certain testing. They're actually coming up now with studies to prove that the virus may stay in an infected body for up to 3 months. Now, in far diminished levels, but this has a huge impact on those of you who are employers and who are expecting that negative test to bring your folks back. Mm-hmm. Well, you might not get a negative test for up to 3 months. And it might have been a really mild case, but the CDC is now starting to identify that the virus may still be present in some of the individuals. And they really haven't even proven yet whether individuals can be reinfected. So this is a huge topic that we all need to really kind of be aware of. Again, this is an announcement that came out, so it's dated August 16th. If you aren't using the 10-day symptom strategy, you need to be aware of that. What am I forgetting, Scott?
No, you're hitting it right. Absolutely. And this kind of gets back to, and that's one of those false type of sense of security. It's like, well, I had COVID, now I'm over it. And luckily I came through pretty much unscathed. Yes. But you're absolutely right. We do not know at all whether or not that's going to protect you in the future. And we talked about this a few weeks ago where, should I require my folks to do antibody tests?
Ooh,
and no, I went to my doctor and I had a rash on my arm and everything like this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because I started reading this stuff on the internet, which it must be accurate. It says that you can have, there you go. But it says that, you can have a rash if you had COVID, and this could be some of the, coming out. And I'm like, oh my God, is this COVID? And it's really funny because I love my doctor, Boris, and he's Russian. And he says, no, that's not COVID. You've got poison ivy. Okay. So I'm like, oh, you ever be so glad? Oh, thank God I got poison ivy. Okay. Or, something like this. And And I said, well, should I have an antibody test anyway? He goes, oh, I can give you one. They won't work. They're no good. So I said, you mean even if I take an antibody test, he goes, oh, you got 50% positive, 50% negative, like flip a coin. I mean, it's no, if they did that with EPT tests, they wouldn't sell any. Okay. So our antibody tests are absolutely worthless, but it's a false sense of security. I am now impervious to this because I had it. Let me tell you, all the things we're talking about here are going to be important, and we need to keep doing them and remain diligent if we even value anybody around us until we get an effective vaccine. And this is my opinion. I'd love to hear what Kristen and everybody thinks about this, anybody in the medical community, but that's all I'm hearing from my doctor and everybody else. And he is saying, and some other folks I've spoken to in other webinars, and they've said, look, you've got to be diligent. And if you're not diligent until we get a vaccine, we could be very likely be back to where we were in March, very easily.
Right. And to Kristen's point too earlier, because we now know that the virus may still exist, some of your individuals of high risk, and I'm talking about in an infected individual, when they come back, some of your individuals of high risk may be more susceptible to getting even that low level of the virus. And it's not something you need to panic about.
Right.
Just be aware that if you're doing the 6 feet social distancing, if they're washing their hands, if they're wearing the masks, you're still doing everything as an employer that you're supposed to be doing. So if you need more information on these new guidelines, please get with Scott, get with me, get with your labor law attorney, and go over your setting and your demands and type of work that you do. I also wanted to touch very quickly, Scott, on Title III, because remember, as employers, your customers may be coming in and have to ask for an accommodation not to wear the mask. And I really think we need to mention that as, again, another reason why you need to have the appropriate person talking about that topic with somebody if you're going to try to exit somebody out of the building.
Yeah, you're after my own heart again, because we talked about this before. I've had a lot of time to finish a couple books and do a lot of videos and things like this, which is really good. The ADA is still out there. I mean, it didn't go away. And I don't know if you saw the report from the EEOC that they're getting buried with these things, but the EEOC is also for a public accommodation. And I am telling you right now, if somebody came wheeling through your front door and needed help in a wheelchair, you would help them. And if you had somebody that was at high risk or something, you would help them. And let me clue you in here. They're protected under the ADA. Now, understand what's high risk. I did this exercise with my Vatican clients. I had 50 guys stand up. I said, okay, I want everybody to stand up. So they all stood up. And I said, everybody sit down who smokes. Everybody sit down who's overweight. Everybody sit down who's diabetic. Okay. And I had a few. Anybody has high blood pressure, sit down. When we're done going through this list, one guy was still standing up. So I was like, wow, he was high risk. If you're over the age of 40, you're high risk. You're high risk because that's what this world does to you. Okay. So everybody over 40 has some high risk factor. But I will tell you, good point, Pandy. Those people who are coming into your business, they are protected under the ADA and they are deserving of a reasonable accommodation exactly like your employees.
I'm going to take you one more step because we're almost out of time here. But if you are taking the temperature of your customers, clients, and employees, here's something I want you to be very cognizant of. I'm now hearing, and I'm one of them, I am now asking that temperatures be taken at the wrist versus on the head.
Are they?
There's some new feelings about individuals pointing something at your head. Just be cognizant if they refuse to have you point something at their head, you can take the temperature at the wrist.
Really?
Kristen Dickerson, thank you so much for being here from the Bureau of Workers' Comp. Mary Miller, what can I say about you? You always hit right on spot. Scott Warwick with Scott Warwick Employment Services. And again, a thank you to ICRC-TV for allowing us one more hour. My name is Pandy Pridemore with the Human Resource USA. We hope to see you next week. Thank you for attending today.